Good morning and welcome to CEDIA 2020. Thanks for joining us here at the Modus VR booth. Today we're going to show you some new features of our product, and if you've never seen it before, this will be a great sneak peek of everything available in Modus VR. So what is Modus VR? Modus VR is a sales and design tool that's built for audio-video professionals. We offer a number of features and benefits that allow you to create a seamless and immersive sales experience for your customers. And today what we're going to show you is the speed in which we can do this. Some people always ask us, hey, how long does it actually take to build these rooms? Well, the answer is it's fast, real fast. In fact, we're going to time each of these demos, and we'll let you know how long it takes to actually throw this together. These rooms are predetermined, but most times you have some parameters. So let's just jump right in here to our launcher, and I will show you exactly how rooms are built from the ground up. Alright, so the first thing you need is a floor plan. It's obviously you want to know what the parameters of the room are. I have some floor plans pre-built here. So we will go in and create a space, and we'll just call this CEDIA Room 1. Go ahead and create it. And then once you have your floor plans, you pull them up here with a reference image. And so what I'm able to do is go in here, and this will be CEDIA Room 1. And the nice thing and a new feature of Modus VR is in our launcher software we have the ability to now import and scale a floor plan. So the nice benefit of this is once I've calibrated this image, it will actually scale it and rotate it appropriately. Now this room actually came from our friends over at Vicoustic, so it's all in metric. But first thing I want to do here is calibrate the image, and so I just draw the longest line I can find. And we see this is 833 centimeters. So now that it's done that, it's actually scaled the image. You can set the transparency. From this point on, you actually just start drawing walls. It's super, super simple. I am going to set my units to centimeters here, and I'm going to change my snapping to 10 centimeters. Actually, I'll change it to probably 1.5 cm. Alright, so you start drawing some walls here, and it's pretty straightforward from this point on. You can actually hold the control key, and there's actually some tips and tricks over here, and just start building your basic shape of the room. Now with square rooms, this is actually even simpler for some. You can literally just pop the dimensions into the software and it'll automatically create them, but we did want to show you the power of being able to draw the walls. So if you had more arbitrary shapes off the side of the room, like a extra room over here or something like that, super easy to add. So then I can come in here and just validate all of our dimensions. So we know that this wall is supposed to be 833 centimeters. I can actually go in here and manually type that in as well, which is really great if you want the speed. But if we want to get everything lined up nice and perfect, 833, and I've got a little bit of an angle here. 833, 833. So once we have the room saved, we can go into VR. Now, most of the magic of Modus VR happens, albeit in virtual reality. We have kind of three different phases that we do. So the first phase is the actual creation of the room, which we include all the designing. And so once we have the shape of the room built, we jump into VR and we actually do all of the population of the objects in VR. So I'm actually going to save this and hand things over to Ken and Scott, who are actually in VR here. Let's see if we can get them up on screen. Oh, there they are. Hi, guys.
Hey, Patrick. Thanks.
Hello.
This is Ken.
This is Scott.
So thanks for building out the shell of this room, Patrick. And as you mentioned, now we'll just populate the rest of the space. That's all done in VR. And it's also really quick. You'll see us using our tools here to build this out. Probably only take us a few minutes. And one thing to keep in mind with VR is not everything has to be done in VR when you're talking about presentation. All the building is definitely done here in VR strictly because it's so fast. And you'll see this whole room will only take us a couple minutes. But once we've finished building it, you can certainly present to your clients in VR, but especially in the cases where you have a worldwide pandemic going, that's not always an option. And so once we've built this room, then we'll send it back to Patrick, and he can show us all the different ways that you can create some deliverables for your clients, things like photos, line drawings, and even panoramic 360s. So for the next couple minutes here, we're just going to flesh out this room. This is a high-performance theater. All the acoustic treatment is provided by Vicoustic, and I think we're going to toss in some Stark sound for the audio. We want this to be as nice and powerful of a system as we can do. We also want it to look nice and classy. One of the products we've just lined the walls with is the Vicoustic VMT. It's a great alternative to a stretched fabric approach. It's just a lot simpler to install, and it looks nice. You can get some really nice patterns on it too. For now, we're just tossing in some stuff, and then we'll go and do a quick validation of some of the things. I'm a little bit concerned about the screen placement with this low riser we have back here, and I suspect that's going to be an issue.
And so you guys have sort of divided up tasks, it looks like. Ken, you're kind of handling the acoustics and the audio, while Scott is, it looks like, doing the lighting and the furniture. This doesn't necessarily have to be done with two people, but it certainly increases the speed. But typically, Ken, how long does it take us to build a room similar to this with one person?
One person, especially if you're not as familiar with the tool as we are, it's probably about 20 to 30 minutes. And the time from there just comes down as you get better with the tool. And the nice thing is, while it is really fast, which is wonderful to get good results, that's also what makes it so easy when you're presenting to a client. So in an ideal world, you'd have a client in VR with you. That's not always going to be the case. Pandemic aside, they may not even be in the same area as you. And so we also do a lot to make it so you can stream these sessions as well. So you could do something like a Zoom call or a stream like you're doing right now, so that your clients can still see what it's going to be like. And since it's so fast, it changes when you bring the client in to see this type of thing. You can bring them in really early on, get that feedback before a lot of the ideas are baked, and answer a lot of tough questions early on without things being too difficult or time consuming to come up with better solutions to problems you might encounter.
Definitely, and collaborating in VR is actually so much fun too. We were talking about this yesterday when we were playing around in here. We're all in different places, but it gives you the feeling that you're really all there together. But it's pretty fun when you start playing around with different objects and different layouts of rooms. We worked on a room yesterday, Ken, that you kind of found a new love of the room by just rotating things around a little bit. So we'll probably see that later on in a demo. So it looks like Ken's throwing a Barco projector up on the ceiling. We've got some nice big surrounds installed, nice pair of towers. So the room is looking pretty well finished out. Scott, how are you feeling about things?
Looks good. Yeah, I think we are done.
Okay, awesome. So
How long
Ken,
did
do you
that
want to
take
start
us?
working through? Sorry,
How long did that take us?
It was about 4.5 minutes, so not too bad. So figure that was done by two people, maybe double that, and we're still under 10 minutes to build out a room like this. Now, obviously, this was predetermined where everything's at. We're familiar with the room, but a lot of times that's actually the case. You're just trying to give your customer a visual representation of how you build your rooms. Ken, do you want to walk through some of the technical aspects of this room while we're in here? You said you wanted to look at the projector. Come back here and get a nice angle on that.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. These are low seats. We've got a very short riser. It's 23 centimeters tall, so not even a foot. And so as I'm looking at this, we might have some issues. So first thing I'm going to do is turn on our sight lines indicator. And there's a couple things that happen here. Once we turn that on, we get this blue glowing head above every seat. And above every head is this status indicator. And so right now these front row seats all have a green indicator, which means they're good, but we're seeing these flashing red dots. And what's happening is these red dots are showing, they're basically indicating areas that are blocking the screen for somebody else. And this rear row has a bunch of red indicators above each of those guys. So we need to work through this problem. So normally the first thing you would do is just raise the riser a little bit, which I can do, and those problems go away. But in this particular case, the entrance is on this back level. And so to raise the riser, we actually have to lower the floor. And let's pretend in this case, that's a non-starter for the client. Maybe this is already a built room and digging down is just not an option. So we've got to figure out other ways we can solve that. And this is where Modus and the ability to change stuff on the fly becomes so important, because we want to be able to make these quick changes, try things out, and get that real-time feedback. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to start raising the screen up. And this is certainly going to solve the issue, but to get it fixed, we've got to get the screen up almost completely against the ceiling there. And if we turn on our elevation indicator, we'll notice this guy is almost at 10 degrees. That's way too high.
Now, where do we get those actual specs from, Ken?
Yeah, these are just industry specs, CEDIA specs. So what we're trying to be is plus or minus 5 degrees within that range. So there's probably no good way we're going to make that happen with this screen size at this aspect ratio. So first thing I'm going to try is pushing the client to a 235 screen. And so if we do that, then we can get a little bit closer, but we're still having issues. So what are we going to do? Well, the next thing we could look into is getting different seating. So this is the Scenic Gramercy. It's an awesome, awesome seat, but it is that modern, sleek, low profile. So I'm going to swap out the seat back here and put in a different one just to see. And we need to get this approved by the client, of course. But I'm going to toss in like a Cinematech Legrand. Make that a little bit bigger. And we're almost there. We are so close. But I think this is probably as good as we're going to get. And this is the other value of VR, is no theater, unless you're spending an awful lot of money, is going to be perfect. There's almost always a compromise that needs to be made somewhere, and the best thing we can do is educate the client up front. Because from here, there might be other options we could explore. We could look into having you enter the room and then step up onto a platform. That would certainly solve the issue, but that introduces other room flow challenges. So again, it's all about showing the client, guiding them to the best solution we can that's within their budget, that's within their style, and meets their objectives, but ultimately it's still up to the client, right?
Definitely.
And also we could even scoot the seat forward a little bit. We've got plenty of room here, so we still have some options, but the main thing I wanted to show is that we have these design assistants that help encourage good design and educate the client so that when compromises have to be made, they're going into it eyes wide open.
Definitely. And after all this is done and the design and build side of things is done, we can take it on to the next step. Obviously, one limitation of Modus previously to, gosh, I guess June, was the fact that getting deliverables and tangibles for your customer were pretty tricky to do. So we're going to hop out of VR now and back to the launcher. So let me just do that here. All right, so now that we're back in the launcher software, this is where we actually have the ability to create the deliverable package for your customer. Now the deliverables are broken into a few different sections of the launcher. So the first is in here under this Create Line Drawings section. And line drawings is what most people equate to CAD export. We used to call it CAD export, but it's actually a little more than just a CAD export. And this actually allows us to generate a nice package of predetermined line drawings from the VR session that we just created. So the floor and ceiling elevations are automatically created from the original file. After that, we can just add views for elevations. So maybe we want to go front wall elevation, ELEVATION. And there's some tools in here where we can actually automatically snap this to fit the wall. And so I think the speakers, because they're so large, it's probably an important part of this front wall. So we just want to drag that back a little bit here and grab that front wall section. You get a preview of the actual elevations or the view of the views over here as well. Whoops, call this our sidewall elevation. And on this one, I don't actually want to capture that speaker because I don't want it to block the view of the acoustic treatment. And then we can actually duplicate this one for the opposite wall, like so. And we'll do a third one or fourth one here on the rear wall. Alright, so once we have those set, we can actually come in here and annotate them. And this is a new feature for this year as well. We launched this back in June along with Modus Photo, which I'll show you in a moment here. And so this is really nice because we can go in and we can actually do callouts. We can also add dimensions. So previously to add dimensions was actually pretty tricky. So because of the size of these speakers, we'll definitely want to call out the actual dimensions of them. You can actually change this. This would be a good time if you're working on a metric floor plan. You can actually change back to imperial measurements here without any complications. You just click of a button. Again, we have such large speakers. I want to go ahead and just call those out. So they're 4.1. And maybe we want to also, well, actually, I see a little issue that we ran into here. We actually obstructed the screen a tiny bit, but that's okay. We know that that can be adjusted in the real world, but we will make sure that that gets adjusted. So we'll call out the height of the speaker because that's going to be important to our installers to make sure the screen gets mounted high enough. So once we have all of our markups done, maybe we want to add this adjust screen to clear speaker at Okay, perfect. So once we have that, we can save, and then we can actually just click Generate Drawings. All the information that's seen here, the company name, address, you can put a phone number and or website, email address, whatever you want. That's all based off of these settings here, and these are default settings that you set up in the software when you first get everything going. We'll call this Vicoustic Theater Room. So the project name is here, and then the view names will come out of the actual views that you establish here. So I'm going to click Generate Drawings, and this is going to go ahead and click put together a nice PDF deliverable. And we're actually going to make all of these deliverables available on the CEDIA site as well. So you guys can go through and actually see all this stuff, download the PDFs, and you'll see the photo mode and a couple of the new features we have as well. So here you can see we've got this nice clean PDF. It creates all the notes and everything all in a nice formatted, presentable tool. So that is our line drawings. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at Modus Photo. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. I'm going to keep my changes. So Modus Photo is actually what we call a companion app to Modus VR. You launch it in a very similar way that you launch into VR. And so get it up on screen here. So Modus Photo looks a lot like Modus VR did, except for obviously Ken and Scott are now missing from the room. But one thing that you may or may not notice, but I'll point it out here, is that the lighting is actually a lot more realistic. We use a different lighting algorithm here to allow you to go in and fine-tune the different lights. You can increase individual types of lights as well as just setting kind of that look and feel for the room. Now this room, because it's a bit of a darker room, I'm just going to go ahead and increase our ambient light so you can see everything really well. But now you're able to go in and export the views that you had from VR into 2D formats. And these are high resolution screen captures. The beauty of this is that typically speaking, to get renders like this, for most companies, you're talking about either having a person on staff who does this using a CAD software and then some kind of a render export, or maybe you're sending it out to third party. Regardless of how you get these renders, generally they take a fairly long time and they're expensive to change. Whereas in Modus, you can literally jump back into VR, move a couple things around, and create brand new still images that are absolutely stunning. So I'm going to just fine-tune the light here, get a view that I really like. So you can actually set both the zoom of the camera and the focal length, which is kind of fun because you can play around with this and you can get some really cool blurring effects off of the arms of the chairs. So once we actually really like the view here, which I'm going to grab a little more of that, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and that's going to take one snapshot, and you'll see down there in the bottom left corner there's a little thumbnail of it, and we want to grab one here as well. Oh, and actually, one thing that we can do, which looks really cool, is we can actually turn on some video here. And I don't know if the guys actually got through that part, or maybe I missed it in the demo. But we can actually fire up different formats of content as well. So let me bring the lights down here so we can actually see this pretty well. So we can do 235 content, like the Frozen clip you see here, or maybe this room is going to be used for gaming. So we can actually fire up, we got like a Fortnite clip, or maybe they just want to watch some standard old basketball. So you can actually fire up this content, freeze frame it, and then grab a snapshot of that as well. So let's go ahead and grab that shot. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to bring the lights back up and get a shot of the rear of the room. And then I'm going to show you the newest feature of Modus Photo, which is the 360 photo, which I think is a fantastic addition to the offering. It allows you to capture this room and send it out to a customer. So let me just take this last snapshot. And then, so what we do is we basically pick a spot in the room that we like for capturing a 360-degree view. And so just take a quick look around, make sure you're seeing everything you want to see, and then up there in the top you'll see it says Control-Enter, Make 360. So let's put some different content on the screen for this part. Let me do the THX demo clip, find something that looks really good on the screen area. I like this scene here with all the glass orbs. There we go. Okay, so now you just hit Control-Enter. Boop. It makes that sound every time, I promise. And that quickly, now I have a 360-degree capture of the room. Now, as I said, we'll export this to the CEDIA page so you guys can actually see what that looks like. The great thing about this, though, is that it can be opened up on any device, whether it's a tablet, a phone, or a standard computer via email. It's just a link you click and open up. So as long as you have a web browser, you can actually swipe around on your iPad and see this room in 360, which is a really fantastic additional deliverable. We understand that in these current climate and times, people aren't super thrilled about maybe throwing on a VR headset, so this gives us a nice alternative to give them some of that experience, that full immersive experience on their own personal device. So that's the demo for this morning. Thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to doing some more. We'll be back at the top of next hour, so in about 35 minutes, with another room, another demo, and we'll be doing this all day today and tomorrow. So please feel free to ask some questions in chat if you have them. We'll be around to answer questions after every demo. And thanks for joining us here at Modus VR.